Hello and welcome, ladies and gents, to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 2 Championship. Today you join us for round 4 here at Zolder, one of the favourite tracks of mine here in Belgium. Unfortunately overshadowed by the awesome Spa circuit, but a great track nonetheless. My name's Yanis Mer. I'll be commentating for you guys this evening and for the rest of the season. And looking at the weather, it is going to be a bit hot today. We've got 36 degrees Celsius ambient temperature and 28 degrees Celsius actual track surface temperature. At the moment, we're following Jackson in the green Ferrari. I believe it's a new livery. Can't quite see the logo on the side, but it looks like a brown humanoid. Not sure what to call it, but it looks absolutely fabulous. He's been running a darkish green lime livery all season long, so it's good to see him sticking to his core colours, but give it a fresh look today. He's the only one out on track at the moment, other than, let's have a quick look. At the moment he's the only one out except for Hosco and Rodriguez. We only have 13 drivers, 14 drivers in the lobby at the moment, but I'm sure we will have plenty more join us later over the course of this awesome race. We're now at midday, so we shouldn't be going into any evening racing, which means that we get to see everything in the light of the sun. So today we've got another 2 drivers lined up for interviewing. Today we'll have 2 AM drivers. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about how their season has been going quite recently. In terms of the format for tonight, as per usual for this season, we've got 1 hour of practice, followed by 20 minutes of qualifying, and then an hour of non-stop action racing. During that race, the drivers have to complete a mandatory pit stop for both fuel and tyres. However, there is no pit stop window. This means drivers can pit at any point during the race. So strategy is going to be varying a lot between the different drivers. Now for pro drivers, strategy is going to play an important part. Do you want to get the undercut? Do you want to get the overcut? There's a lot we could go into. For the Pro-Am and Am drivers, however, it'll probably just be a little simpler. Whatever you can do to beat your rival. And boy, have we got some rivalries going at the moment during the championship. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Also, in terms of a recap over last race, Michael Topinka took his 3rd race win of the season, a hat-trick of victories for the Czech, and he has been on a roll all season long, qualifying pole for all 3 races, finishing from pole all 3 races. However, last race at Barcelona, Dixon managed to jump ahead through turn 2. Very unexpected. None of us thought this would happen. But Dixon led, unfortunately, for only a lap before he disconnected for some other weird reason. Some sort of connection issue. So it was unfortunate. We couldn't see a battle for the lead there. Dixon seemed quite strong on the pace. Craig Hewlett as well. He came fairly close to Topinka throughout the session. But ultimately Topinka stayed ahead to take his 3rd race win of this season. So he is currently in P1 in the Pro class. Closely following up is Craig Hewlett. He's only 4 points behind, and behind Hewlett is Rebecci. So that's our top 3 for the Pro class then. Topinka, Hewlett and Rebecci, 52, 48, 46 points respectively. These 3 have been sharing the podium fairly regularly, except for the first round where Topinka shared the podium with Hearn and Dixon. but unfortunately they haven't been able to make consistent runs so far through the season. They missed round 2, and of course Dixon, with the connection issues, he had to leave not mid-race, at the start of the race for round 3, and Hearn, despite cracking pace, he was on it, unfortunately qualified right at the back due to some issues during qualifying, and so he is also at a disadvantage when it comes to the overall points on the leaderboard. In terms of the Pro-Am class, Felix Eck continues to lead the way with a double race win so far at the Nürburgring and Barcelona. And second in his class is actually Martin Mischk in the BMW. He's had also very consistent results, except for last race where he did not start, with a race win at Silverstone and a P2 during Nürburgring. He's been showing fairly promising pace. Qualifying pace for Mischk has been a bit up and down. He's fairly strong during practice, and then during qualifying the other drivers come in and there's just all sorts of stuff happening. But Mischk is definitely one to watch out for in the Pro-Am class. Third in the class at the moment is Anonymous Rave. He's currently P3 with 46 points. He's had a podium so far at Silverstone, finishing P2, and then at Barcelona P4, and Nürburgring P4 and Barcelona P9. So his race has been also, it's been okay, but is still a way off of making any points on Mischk. But he's only 3 points over Mischk, so there's still loads that could happen, doing both this race and the next. And the drivers start to pour in. 19 drivers on the grid at the moment, 7 of them having set a lap. And these laps do not seem to be too bad. The track is quite warm today, so we should be seeing some sub-30s, I imagine, from the pros. Possibly even a 28 or a 27 from the front of the grid, like Topinka or Dixon or Hearn or Rebecci or Hewlett. There's really a load of guys that could post those quick lap times. Yes, at the moment, I've just checked the standings. Dixon is in P11 at the moment, and Hearn is P6. So this is just due to those race starts they couldn't make in round 2 and round 3. The setbacks for Hearn, the disconnection for Dixon, because they seem to be the main challenges for Topinka at this point in the season. However, Hewlett and Rebecci should definitely not be underestimated. Last week we had an interview with the championship leader, the Pro Class Championship leader, Topinka, and he expressed, we asked them the question, which driver concerns you the most? And the first word that came to the couple first words that came were Rebecci and Craig. So those two are also to watch out for. The other driver he mentioned was Dieringer in the Reitiger, the only Reitiger on track, who's currently P10 on your left if you check that. Dieringer, last race, he actually had his first podium of the season, so great start to the season. It was his first race at Barcelona. He posted P2, so I'm sure he's very happy with that result to start out with. And so to continue the story, Topinka was also worried about Dieringer, because Dieringer is a real-life racing driver that drives that car in real life. So Dieringer knows that car pretty much inside out. He's going to know it better than anyone else. And because it is such a difficult car to master, seeing as he's got all this experience, he's going to be quite good on track. And he definitely did not disappoint last race. As we said, finishing P2 to Felix Eck. Eck himself, the man on top in the Pro-Am class at the moment. Despite his 2 race wins so far, he was under pressure from Dieringer towards the end. Unfortunately, he made a mistake, got a drive-through penalty and came out just ahead of Dieringer. We saw them at the end within eyesight of each other. "11 drivers out on track at the moment, with 22 in the lobby. So this is looking to be a fairly full race lobby, I think. We have 49 drivers in the championship at the moment. Of course, some people can't join, some people have had to leave. People like Slama, who has been showing a lot of pace during hot lapping actually. He's been posting a lot of quick times, but unfortunately he had to leave us quite early on. Race 2 of the season. He was P4 at Silverstone actually, and unfortunately he just couldn't make the rest of the season. So hopefully we'll see him back around for season 3, or even the Enduro series, which is coming up in June, starting June 22nd. If we get enough sign-ups, that's the only issue. We need more drivers to join, with 4-hour races on the Saturday afternoons. Looks to be quite a lovely little championship, but of course the issue is sign-ups. That's the only thing we need at the moment. We're currently following Fox in the white McLaren. Another new livery. He's usually running the HSR Motorsport black, red and white livery, but right now he's running the patriotic English flag. I'm not sure who's on the side. I assume it'll be the patron saint of England. Being a South African myself, having had to take a life in the UK test, I believe that is St George, the patron saint of England. It's crazy the kind of stuff you need to learn there. But at the moment, Fox in P7, P2 in his class, and he looks to be taking an early run into the top podium spots for the Pro-Am class. So at the moment on the top, you can see top left, Mikael Topinka 1:28.5. That is a very quick time from our Pro Class Championship lead at the moment. Then it's Mishk, car number 3 in the BMW, 1.3 seconds off. You can see that massive gap between the Pro and the Pro-Am driver. And then third is Jackson, this driver that we're following at the moment, Am driver. Last race, he had his first race win of the season. He's been finishing fairly consistent, P4 and P5 at Silverstone and Nürburgring respectively. And then last race win, qualified P1 for his class and crossed the line first. It was absolutely awesome for this man in the Ferrari. He's currently P3 in the championship, as we've said in the AM class. Oh, actually, we didn't cover the AM class standings. My apologies. We went through Pro and Pro-Am, but not AM. So, AM standings at the moment is Daniel Zlatnik in P1. He's in a Ferrari. The top 3 are actually all Ferraris. Zlatnik, Pfeiffer, and then Jackson. Zlatnik finished P1 and P2 in the first 2 races of the season, 51 points, but he could not make it to Barcelona last week, so he's at a points deficit. However, he's still at the top. Pfeiffer has been an ever-present threat to Zlatnik, finishing on the podium all 3 races, P2, P3, P2. So he's going to be looking to continue his streak of podiums. Then in P3 is this man in the Ferrari, P4, P5, and then last race P1. So it's fairly consistent race results from the race leaders of all championships. Sorry, championship leader of all 3 classes. terms of qualifying pace, I know that Jackson, who we'll be having a chat to later today, he's had very consistent results between qualifying and race. So for qualifying, first race at Silverstone, he qualified P4, and then at Nürburgring, qualified P5. We just confirm. But all I know is last race he qualified P1 and finished P1. So he has had a pretty consistent relationship between his qualifying and his race pace. So if he can keep that up at the same pace he was last week, then he's going to be fighting for the top positions. As it is, he is already fighting for the top positions. If he can pull off another podium this race week, I imagine he'll be fighting with Zlatnik and Pfeiffer. Zlatnik will hopefully be joining us today. Yes, he is in the lobby. Zlatnik and Pfeiffer. Where is Pfeiffer? And just looking at some of the names, we do have plenty of new drivers joining us today. As we said earlier, some drivers have had to leave the season, unfortunately, because of, well, just some commitments, or just generally they just can't make it. So, new drivers, I'm just going to be saying their surnames. It's going to be Worth, Verkash, Rankin, Dutton, Bosman and Deval. I do know my pronunciation is not at its best, but that is 6 drivers joining us, split between the Pro-Am and Am class. So we will hopefully see some great racing from them today as well. Rookies in the season. And we are currently looking at P3 in the championship, Rebecci in the Omega Motorsport Italia car. There are actually a couple Italian drivers, or Omega Motorsport Italia drivers, in the championship, so it's always interesting to see the different cars and the liveries. Omega Motorsport Italia is actually running the only Lamborghini on grid. I'm not quite sure who it is, but we do have McLaren and Ferrari as the main cars for Omega Motorsport Italia. No Guidolin. It's either Guidolin or Maris in Aston Martins as well. Here we go, let's follow Maris in the Aston Martin. Yes, Omega Motorsport Italia driver running the beautiful Aston Martin. Hopefully today we've got 2 drivers to interview. As we said earlier, 2 AM drivers. One of them is very new to the championship, joined us just last race for his first run, and the other driver is quite experienced and high up in the championship, as we saw Jackson. We'll hopefully be having an interview with him later. We're just having a little trouble trying to chat to our first driver, so hopefully we will get that sorted fairly soon. Here's Maras pulling over right now. Here's one of our new drivers, Dutton, in a very nice livery in the BMW. Looks absolutely awesome. A mean livery for a mean car. This thing is one of the most slowest handling cars, I would say, in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but if you can master this car, it is an absolute weapon. As we saw Martin Mischk, he was AM class, but due to his performance at Silverstone, he got promoted to Pro-Am class and was actually worrying Mikael Topinka at some point during the Nürburgring practice. And at the moment, you can see 2 BMWs within the top 5, Mischk and Dutton, the other 3 cars being McLarens. And I think around Zolder specifically, the BMW is quite good in terms of absorbing the bumps if you can get the setup right. That's always the thing with the cars around Zolder. Even as we see with a McLaren, if you have it set up right, then it's gonna obviously perform well. In my brain, it makes sense for the BMW to be quite good if you can set it up right, of course. Due to just... Zolder is a lot of curbs. And especially this chicane they're coming up to right now, the Klein chicane, turn 5, is very bumpy if you try and cut it just right. So you can imagine the BMW's weight will help the drivers there. And then through this series of corners, let's actually go on board with Dutton in the grey BMW. Let's have an on board and he can take us through the circuit. And we'll start talking about the track once he crosses the finish line, coming up the final straight now. Zolder is 2.5 miles long with 10 turns. Here we go. So, down the main straight, coming past the pits, up to Erst, turn 1, left-hander, high speed. You can nail the chicane, get on the throttle as early as you can, but be careful of that runoff. Oh, and Dutton, unfortunately, is not giving us the lap. We'll have to go on board with Rebecci now. Actually, let's go on board with Mischk. And that bonnet is looking very colourful compared to usual. Mischk usually has a very good livery lined up. So it is actually no surprise he's running this bright pink livery on the BMW. Let's just talk about the track as we go along. I'll just talk you through it. So coming through turn 6, Butte, need to brake in a straight line for the chicane and the right-hander. Villeneuve for the right-hander. The complex of right-handers for turn 7. Coming through the left kink now into Boulderbergbocht. Turn 8, right-hander semi-hairpin. It's not completely a hairpin. You can hook the inside of the tyre to give you more speed. And I only found that out this week because I haven't been here in a while. Then turn 10, another chicane, the Jackie X-Bocht. The only way I know how to pronounce these is because I speak a different language. I'm bilingual, so I can make the ch and the r sounds. It's actually quite similar to Flemish and Belgian, actually. Okay, here we go for a full lap now. Turn 1, Erst, left-hander, out onto the curb on the outside. Turn 2, Sterrenwachtbocht, right-hander, long, sweeping fast, Kanalbocht. Turn 3, another right-hander, into yet another third right-hander, Lucien Bianchebocht. Turn 4, and out onto another small straight, leading up to a tricky chicane section, Klein chicane, and Sacramento-Schellen. Coming through there, you can see the sausage curbs just waiting to throw your car off. Through there, over the hill, through turn 6, the left-hander Butte, into the Villeneuve chicane. Tillmanbocht, turn 7, is the complex of right-hander turns. You can take a lot of curb here, and if you do, you will be finding yourself half a second ahead of the driver who doesn't take any curb. Brake just before the 100-meter marker for the semi hairpin at turn 8 through turn 9. Keep it as straight as you can. Run down into turn 10, Jackie Export, with a pit lane actually leading just off of this. So it is a very interesting pit entry. And again, if you take that first left of the chicane and you cut as much of the curb as possible, you'll find yourself with a nice exit onto the pit exit. And that is a lap of Zolder. 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles of track. And let's have a look at his livery. This is Martin Misch, currently P4, 1.2 seconds off of the current practice leader, Topinka, as usual. And Misch looks to be running some sort of cartoony kind of livery, just absolutely awesome. Bright colours, so he's definitely going to be noticed. And we can see a yes on the bonnet, 3 around the logo, explosion of the BMW M on the back. This is an absolutely brilliant livery, catches the eye. And you can see a couple images of, I believe that was a duck, probably a cartoon duck. You can see the pit entry there, you just go straight on at the chicane into the pits. Let's have a look at our current practice leader, Topinka, who's running his usual white, blue and black livery. Fairly simple, but you see that thing in your mirrors and you know this guy is going to be quick. Rebecci actually 0.8 seconds off of Topinka at the moment in terms of lapping pace. So I think we'll be seeing the times go up, and we do have loads of drivers having set a time so far. Let's have a look. We currently have 26 drivers setting a time, with 30 drivers in the lobby overall. At the moment we're following Massaro in a Ferrari. Also a very colourful paint scheme. But now we will be having a chat with one of our own drivers. And just give me a second, we will have a chat with him soon. Sorting out some technical difficulties. There we go. Poogie Jackson, welcome to the commentary box. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yep, no problem, no problem. So, earlier you told me you've only been into sim racing for 3 months. What got you into it?
It's been a sort of a I've done it with controller for a long time. So I was playing the F1 game for 10 plus years, to be honest. And I kind of got to the maximum pace I could get with a controller. So, and then I started looking at wheels and pedals, and oh wow, that's a big
that's a big cost. Yeah,
it's a big
expensive
thing. So
yeah.
but it's definitely, since I've done it, it's amazing compared to using a controller. So much more immersive.
So yeah, that was kind of answer to my second question, really. Yeah, what was your progress since you started? And as we've seen, you've got your first race win under the belt. How did that feel, actually, winning last race?
Oh, it was great. It's a real sort of it's a real positive provider for myself to know that what I'm the practice I'm putting in away from these season races is actually being beneficial for in the season races. So it's a great confidence booster to me.
To see your kind of the effort you put in come back out and reward you. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then lastly, your pace during qualifying and race, they've kind of been in a fairly stable relationship. You've been qualifying fairly good, and then you finish in roughly the same area during the race. Considering that, what are your race expectations today and for the rest of the season?
I don't think I have really expectation. I have more of a goal and where I would like to be, and that would be sort of the top three. If the first race or two, I felt like I dropped back a bit because I was still getting used to doing season races with HSR. But like Barcelona was I put a lot of effort into doing practice beforehand, and it did pay off. And I was able to sort of challenge the pro-ams and the top of AMs for first, so I was really happy with that. For today, I'm hoping for a top three again. And yeah, I think qualifying is going to be crucial on this track because I don't think there's going to be much chance of overtaking. So I will be putting most of my effort into qualifying pace.
Indeed. And as you said, the aim is to get into the top three. You're already there, so it's just keeping up the consistency throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for the short chat, and we'll see you out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate.
See ya.
Cheers, bye.
And that was Jackson, our race winner at Barcelona last week. As you heard, a confidence booster and a great moment for this man. Now let's see if we can get our second driver into the commentary box. He was supposed to be here 5 minutes into practice, but didn't seem to have read his DMs. So let me see if I can quickly sort that out. There we go. Mark, long time no see. Welcome to the commentary box.
Hey, man.
Hey, there we go. I was like, he's not reading my messages.
Sorry for being late. I was on the track.
Nah, it's all chill. Yeah, it's all chill, mate. I understand. Cool. So, you're one of our newer drivers to HSR. How was your reception to the server?
I mean, everyone's very friendly. They try to teach me a lot of things. They teach me their ways, I should say.
Yeah.
And they pretty much made me faster on the track as well. They gave me motivation and everything, even when I was not feeling quite myself.
And that's kind of the advantage of these small servers, isn't it? Is you kind of know everyone, everyone's willing to help out, give you a hand.
Yeah, it's like a family.
Indeed.
It's like a small family.
Well, small being about 300 members big, but it is pretty much like a family online, indeed. Now, last
Yes.
race, you were P6, and overall you're P11 in the championship. What are your expectations for this race and the championship?
I mean, I don't know yet. I'm not feeling quite confident on this track. I've been having some issues, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about this race. I'm trying my best to get like used to the track.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had my finals as well. I'm still having them, so I'm studying while racing, which is not a good combo, to be honest. So I couldn't focus on racing only.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm going through some exams myself, but I mean, today I also had my first exam of the season.
Yeah, same.
So, yeah, I
Same.
completely
I had my first
understand
exam
it.
today.
Yeah. Cool. And last question. You've joined fairly late into the season. Of course, we chatted earlier about expectations for the season. How do you plan on making that up? Do you have a plan in mind to make up the points deficit?
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. After my exams, I'm gonna focus entirely on this, on racing. I'm gonna see how far I can get. Yeah. I'm gonna try to see how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm feeling confident about the whole championship. About this race, I'm not really. I mentioned earlier, but about the championship, I'm pretty confident in myself. School is also going to be over. Everything. I'm going to have free time to practice all day. So I'll definitely be. I'll definitely be some competition for the other guys.
Good.
I'm going to try my best.
That's all one can do, really, is just try your best, see where you end up. Sometimes you end up on the podium, sometimes it's a slog, and I completely understand. I was there last season. I was at a slog, but finished pretty much where I wanted to. So, but yeah, just keep racing, just keep pushing, and we'll get there, mate.
Thank you so much, man.
Cool. See you out on track.
See ya.
And that was Mark. Full name Mark Loves You. Not quite sure whether that was that's his full name. Probably not. But it's good to have these new drivers join us, because obviously then they'll be here for next season, and he won't be at a points deficit. He'll be using the car if he chooses the same one, or if he wants a challenge, he can switch to a new one. But as we saw, he's not 100% sure about his pace here at Zolder. In terms of the overall championship, though, he's looking to pose a challenge. So, those were the drivers we were interviewing today. Mark was supposed to be 5 minutes in, but as we heard, he just couldn't get his notifications, so we got him second. But hey ho, that's part of racing. You have to adjust to the situations, both here in the commentary box and down below. Oh, and that was a mallet, I believe, into the barriers. And we do have contact listed between car 80 and 4. That's Craig Hewlett with some contact. Let's have a look at that. Coming through the chicane. And I think we missed it. We were probably still following Rebecci. Apologies, I'm still getting used to the replay function. Let's have a look at that again. Here we go. So coming through the right-handers, and he rejoins, and just catches him unawares. Usually we have an issue where the drivers try and get out the way and they just plunge into the grass, but this time it was a rejoin That put Craig into the wall. At the moment, we've got 29 drivers having set a lap, and we're still 15 minutes from the end of practice. So that is a lot of drivers so far, with 33 having joined overall. And right now we're following the Zanuski. David Zanuski in the pink and... is that a red? Yeah, that's red. The pink and red Aston Martin. Fresh new look from last race. Last race it was an all pink and purple. So this race has gone for an all metallic kind of look, which I quite fancy, to be honest. Looks very fancy compared to some of the other stuff we've seen. Obviously Jackson's was also fairly bright. It's like a galaxy green kind of thing. Last race we saw Zanuski and Bobbins have a huge fight. The Pro-Am driver and Am driver over P20, I think, at some point, if my memory serves me correctly. So we shall see where Zanuski and Bobbins end up today. Zanuski at the moment P28 and Bobbins P18. Bobbins is out on a lap now as well. This is actually the only time we can actually properly look at liveries and stuff. Oh, and isn't that funny? Bobbins right behind Zanuski, and it looks like Bobbins is running the classic HSR Motorsport red and black livery. Yes, there it is. Looks like they've got a little bit of snake scales on the back. Whoa, that's a moment for Bobbins into the gravel. Unfortunate, we've got Rodriguez just ahead in that red, blue and yellow Porsche. Looking very colourful and bright. Dieringer, our last race P2 finisher in the Pro-Am class, in his second race of the season here at HSR in the Reitiger. He's the only one driving that car. As we said earlier, Dieringer's a real-life race driver, driving this car in real life, so he knows this thing inside out. So I'm sure he'll be looking to pose a serious challenge to his fellow competitors. He is currently P1 in the Pro-Am class, so he's doing exactly that. Eck in P2. Eck is being challenged for his lead of the championship. And then P3 in the class is Dutton in his first outing with HSR. Of course, joining this late in the season unfortunately does mean he does not get any points for the first 3 races, so he's at a huge deficit when it comes to the championship. But if he can keep consistent results up at the top, I'm sure Dutton will be able to amaze us. Let's see if we can have a look at some of the other liveries with 12 minutes left in practice. We've seen Mish, we've got Adam Tai out here today. In the Aston Martin. I'm just trying to find out where he is in the championship, because I don't think we saw him for a couple races. But Ty then running another red and black livery today. He's currently heading up the AM class instead of the usual Zlatnik, Pfeiffer or Jackson. And Ty is one of the drivers who needs to make up for some lost points. Although he's currently P4 in the championship, he won round 2 at the Nürburgring. So that was his race win of the season, but he did not start last race. So he is at a points deficit to our top 3 in the AM class. But at the moment, he is looking to make that up. P1 currently for his class, down in P13 overall, P1 for his class. Let's have a look at some of the other liveries on display today. We've got Dutton and Chard. Chard is the only driver out on grid that usually runs no livery. Had a heart attack at Silverstone first race when his livery did not show, and then only afterwards was told, yep, he runs no livery. So that was fairly funny for me. Coming into the race, I was like, where's his livery? Had to quickly sync liveries using Awesome Sim Racing. So that's the McLaren, number 777 currently. P7 overall, P6 in his class. Let's have a look at Morris now. The Pro-Am turned Pro driver, currently in P15. So he seems to be struggling a bit doing practice, but of course, you know, you can't always take practice as an indication of how good they will be during the actual race or qualifying. But we saw Morris challenge for the lead at the Nürburgring. Currently P10 on the overall standings in the Pro class. He didn't make the first race actually. Finished P11 race 2 at the Nürburgring and then P5 last race. And the reason he finished outside the top 10 at Nürburgring was due to a stop and go penalty. If I remember correctly, he switched off his pit limiter just a tad too early, and as a result, a stop and go penalty that put him back all those places. He was challenging for the overall podium, so I'm sure he'll be looking to cement himself as one of the drivers on the podium, someone to challenge for the race lead. And we have 7.5 minutes of practice left. Not loads of time to check the rest of the liveries. Ostrichat is usually running a banging livery, and he is not disappointed today. Again, running his gold and green livery. He ran that last week. Ostrichat is currently P4 in the championship, having attended every race so far. And he's managed to finish within the top 10 each race, and unfortunately not able to challenge for the podium as of yet. So he'll be looking to make a change, but unfortunately he seems to be struggling slightly. P14 at the moment. And other drivers we have to look at is Hosko. Interviewed him last week, again one of our newer drivers in the Ferrari. He joined us last week for the first time, and and unfortunately had a very poor race. I think he actually finished P8 last race, but because of the points deficit, because he joined late, it was something he could not fix. Woodkit also interviewed him last week in the Aston Martin. He's currently fairly low in the season standings for AM as well. If you give me 1 second. So you just get my papers off the wall. And it's at this point that you realise you picked the wrong pile of papers. I have them all stacked up on a whiteboard. So I need to take off all the magnets. Give me 1 second. Woodkit just peeling off into the pits now to follow Bobbins. So Woodkit is at the moment P13, and he's only had a single top 10 finish. Missed out barely at Silverstone with a P13 finish, and then couldn't make the second race, so he's also at a points deficit. He's in the pro class, so that is very unfortunate for him as well. 4 minutes left in practice. We're going to have to get through these liveries quick. Pfeiffer, green and blue, as per usual. We've already seen Zaniewski Wraith in, again, another HSR Motorsport livery, black and red. Then Brum in the few Porsches on grid. Last race we saw quite a colourful livery from this guy, and today it's no different. White and lime, looking fresh. At the Nürburgring, I have to say, he was looking extra racy in a black and red livery, so it seems as though every race he changes it. Not sure why, or whether there are factors involving it, but I love it. I love seeing new liveries out here every week. Bosman, his first race of the season, another Porsche, one of 4 out in the lobby at the moment by the looks of things. A lime livery. We saw a lime Porsche last race as well, but it was lime and pink, which is a fairly interesting colour combination. Here he is letting everyone by. Bosman currently P31 out of 33 drivers, so he has a lot to make up to the rest of the grid. But at the top then, it's Topinka with 128.2. He's improved his time, and then half a second off him is Craig Hewlett in another McLaren. And then Dieringer, surprising us as a Pro-Am driver, finishing P3, so he is going to be worrying Topinka. And then closely following Dieringer is Mishk P4 and Robetti P5. And then it's pro drivers for the remaining 5 positions in the top 10. Massaro, Maris, Chard, Priadko and Hearn finishing off the top 10, all within roughly a second of Topinka's time. So these guys are setting 129s. Here's Topinka trying to go around the outside of Morris into the complex of turns that make up section 7. And we do have plenty of contact listed between drivers. Let's have a quick look at that before practice is over. This was Morris and Hosko coming together. Whoa! And yeah, Morris just had a little too much speed coming through there and put Hosko into the wall. 323 and 80. And that was shocking to say the least. I'm not really sure how to respond to that. He was sitting calmly in the gravel, and Jackson decided to beach it with him. That must be one of the funniest collisions I've seen all season long. We've got another one here. 51 minutes. This was Ostrichards. No, sorry, that's a BMW and a Ferrari coming together. Turn 7. That was Massaro coming together with a BMW. And a quick one between, what looks like Topinka and another driver. Yes, this was Topinka and Zlatnik. And there was probably just a little tap there as he came past. And that's always the issue. Topinka, fastest man on the grid, is getting stuck behind the drivers ahead. So for him to set actual qualifying pace laps is slightly frustrating. And that's Topinka into the pit box, and that is the end of free practice. Top 5 being Topinka, Chard, Hewlett. Chard suddenly jumping to the top, only 0.4 off of Topinka's time. So that's Topinka, Chard, Hewlett, Dieringer, Mishk. And then the AM class leaders are Jackson, Ty and Hosko. Hosko with a surprise P3. We'll be looking at him very closely as practice ends and we head into qualifying. As we said, this is going to be 20 minutes of action where drivers vie for the fastest lap overall. And we will be back in a moment. And qualifying is now underway. Currently following Jan Pelk in the BMW, running the BMW Motorsport colours. Some really nice liquid moly branding on the side. Very nice design. We also saw him in his bright orange livery at Silverstone in the first round. So this is also another driver who knows how to attract the eye with liveries as they set their first laps of qualifying. Pelk is in the pits at the moment. I do apologise for going silent. I'm just trying to sort out some technical issues. And that's Pelk coming back out. And at the moment, it's the Pro-Am and Am drivers out on track at the moment, with Deringer leading the way with a 1:28.9 blistering time from the driver in the only Reitiger on track. He's really pushing hard for a podium this race. Second podium of the season. And the professional driver out on grid. As we saw last week, Topinka was a little bit worried about this guy. So it's time for Deringer to make sure that Topinka has that black Reitiger in his rearview mirrors all race long. As some drivers start going off the track. It's not generally something we would recommend for faster times. However, it's up to each driver, I suppose. And Dutton is P2 at the moment, followed by Eck, Rodriguez and Ty, the single Am driver, posting P1 for his class, but P2 for the Am class is currently Rankin, also one of our newer drivers. His first race is today. Currently P2, followed by Zlatnik for P3. Zlatnik, our current Am class leader. So the qualifying here, as we've heard from Mark, is going to be absolutely crucial. I'm sure the drivers will figure a way out to do some overtaking during the race. but qualifying pace is always important. And at the moment, Dieringer, Eck and Dutton lead the field, lead the Pro-Am class, and Hosco actually just set the fastest AM time, 0.725 off of Dieringer's time. Hosco last race finishing P8. Also one of our newer drivers, so the new drivers are starting to stand up for themselves. They're starting to push. Dieringer, of course, last race he finished P12, as we've said so many times before. He's the one to watch in the Pro-Am class, which means that Hosco and Rankin then are the ones challenging for the championship class lead in AM. In terms of drivers out there at the moment, let's go on board with Hosco in the Ferrari. And we are seeing stiff competition for pole in the AM class. Jackson only 0.5 off of Dieringer's time, which means it's Jackson, Hosco, then Ty for our top three in the AM class. And the top three for the Pro-Am class remain unchanged. Dieringer, Eck, then Dutton. And the pros have not come out on track yet. They're waiting for a quiet time between all the traffic. And that is Hosco back into the pits. As I've said, I do apologise for my apparent loftiness at the moment, but if I get this thing working, it will make my life a whole lot easier and make the actual race experience for you guys even better. And we do have a professional coming out of the pits now. A couple professionals. Maris in the black, red and white Aston Martin. We seem to have a new leader, our new pole sitter, Mishk, the BMW. Two BMWs in the top three for the Pro-Am class at the moment. Mishk, then Dieringer, then Dutton. So Mishk is looking for a bid at the top podium steps. As we follow Massaro now. Another new paint scheme. A lovely red, blue and white livery. Looking very nice indeed. Unfortunately, more technical difficulties. And 5 minutes left in qualifying now. We do have new drivers up at the top, and looks like we have a new pole sitter by the name of Craig Hewlett. Currently P1, ahead of, can you believe it, Topinka and then Hearn in P3. Hewlett, Topinka and Hearn are top 3 pro drivers on the top steps of the podium. The only steps of the podium, apologies. But Hewlett taking the top. He's currently P1. Now the question is, does Topinka take back the pole position or gain the pole position? Apologies. He's currently coming through the last section now, coming into turn 10. If he can get this right, he might have a shot at the pole position. Coming up to the final straight, does he make it? Topinka across the line, and yes, he barely gains P1 from Hewlett by 0.003 seconds. That's 3 thousandths of a second. Hewlett is still out, so he'll be looking to do his last couple of laps. Topinka potentially pitting for fresh tyres now, so it's still a battle for pole position. Now if Hewlett can get a clean lap, he is 0.003 seconds behind Topinka, and he was at the front, so this is very, very close indeed. And that is Hewlett pulling over, potentially to get new tyres as well. Here's Priadko, that blue and yellow Ferrari that we've seen plenty of action with this season. Currently P5, and he is barely ahead of Rebecci, Chard and Massaro. All of them are within a tenth of each other. All 4 drivers sharing half a second off of the race or current leader of the pack, Topinka. This is indeed a close qualifying, and because of this pace during qualifying, it's going to be very this is going to be interesting, this race, I think. And both Craig Hewlett and Topinka are back out on track. So their last couple of laps of qualifying. We only have 1 minute remaining. And this is going to be very close. Hewlett just needs to improve by 3 thousandths of a second. And that is Hewlett back into the pits. Meanwhile, Rebecci in P6, he'll be looking to break into the top 5. He's also only 8 thousandths of a second off of Priatko. P4, P5, P6, P7 and P8 all separated by just over 1/10 of a second. These top drivers fighting for the top positions. In terms of the other positions now, Mishk, Deeringer and Dutton make up our top 3 for the Pro-Am class as qualifying comes to an end. Jackson, Hosker and Ty make up our Am leaders for this event. Qualifying P1, P2 and P3 for their class. Jackson, Hosker and Ty. Ferrari and Aston Martin. This is going to be an interesting race, especially coming into turns 1, 2, 3 and 4. That madness going into the first section of the track is going to be crazy. Topinka still out there, and Hewlett is not able to set a new time, so Hewlett unfortunately could not fight back. But here's Topinka. Does he better his time? And that's sub 28. That is lightning quick from the Czech. Last one out on track is Priatko, but he's just coming into the pits now. I believe that is all the action we will see here out on qualifying at the moment as the session draws to a close. And it is race time. cars are forming up for lap 1 of this 1 hour of racing. At the moment, our leaders, our top 3 for the race start is, if I can get my mouse somewhere, our top 3 at the moment is Topinka, Hewlett, Hearn, our top 3 pro drivers running at the front. Then for the Pro-Am class, our top 3 drivers are Mishk, Deeringer and Dutton. And then our Am drivers are going to be Jackson, Hosko and Ty. As we were talking about earlier, Topinka is going to have to deal with the 5 drivers behind him, Hewlett, Hearn, Dixon, Priatko and Rebecci, all wanting a slice of that victory pie that Topinka has not been sharing all season long. He's got to worry about all those drivers. And then for the Pro-Am class, Deeringer looking to get another podium alongside Mishk. And then there's Dutton, his first race start. This is going to be very interesting indeed. And the formation lap isn't very far. We will only be running for about, I don't know, a couple 100 meters, and then that is it. That is all we will be doing on this circuit, but it is go time now. The drivers setting off round the start of the race. This is it, round 4 here at Belgium. And the green flag waves at Zolder. Topinka covering the inside, Hearn down the inside of Hewlett, down into turn 2. This is going to be a hairy couple sections. Oh, and you can see cars off in the background there. Someone losing positions rapidly. Ty a little further back down the grid. And that's Urso completely off the track. And Topinka still ahead out at the start. And there is a huge battle now for P2 between Hearn, Dixon, Hewlett and Rebecci and Priatko. There's Hearn down the inside. Dixon also having a look around the outside. Rebecci just a couple milliseconds away, and almost everyone has survived that. Urso being the only unfortunate recipient of something so far. I'm seeing a move by Mishk further back. The BMW has gone up a couple positions so far. He's gone up 1 position, not a couple, and he is currently P9. But there is still much more to come. You can see Asher Chance in the other BMW in the back there, also looking for positions. And let's see if we can find out who spun out right at the start. Coming through this next section. You can see Maras having had a look there. Anyway, we will leave the contact for later. For now, we continue looking up at the top. Hearn and Hewlett. Topinka is gapping the drivers ahead. He's more than a second ahead of these two. So if these two can work together and the drivers behind, Topinka is going to need to start worrying about his position. Hearn, our P3 finisher at Silverstone. And he's looking for a podium, but he's just gone into the gravel, coming through the long left-hander. Does this give Dixon the opportunity into turns 7? Villeneuve chicane, then Tilleman Blocht. The 2 purple and white cars coming through this section. And the field starts to expand. Hearn has fallen behind Hewlett. And we are seeing action down here with Morris and Deeringer. Morris going around the outside into turn 9. But he's just showing the outside of the track. And that is Dutton just behind in the BMW. And here's Morris, very close on the tail of Deeringer. Of course, this is a pro driver. Oh, and there's contact! And there's drivers all over the... Oh, no! There's chaos on the pit straight. Oh, my goodness! That is a lot of action. There is absolutely no way we will be able to have any clue what's going on at the moment. Looks like that's Ek and Mishk both wrecked in the background. That looks like both Ek and Mishk have both taken loads of damage. These drivers were up at the top of the prime standings, and there's Ek spinning out through turn 1. The damage to his car is insane. Same for Mishk, who's currently back in the pits. What has happened? And meanwhile, all of that has happened. Hewlett got overtaken by Hearn for P2. Hewlett now down to P3. Hearn up into P2. And now these drivers are having to fight for P2, but it's still very early on in the race. They need to work together if they want to take the race win away from Topinka. But Topinka then 2.5 seconds ahead of these drivers. And there's stiff competition for the final couple spots on the podium, P2 and P3. But meanwhile, Topinka's just running away with it. Again, he's been given some space, and he is nailing it. Currently, Topinka, Hearn, Hewlett, our pro driver leaders. Then Dutton, Deeringer, and Rodriguez, our pro-am leaders. And in terms of gaps, Hewlett is only 0.3 off of Hearn. He's going to be looking for a move sometime soon. But of course, if these guys fight too much, Topinka continues to just leave these guys behind. So if Hearn and Hewlett can find a way to benefit each other, then they might potentially catch up to Topinka by the end of the race. But at the moment, they are still fighting for P2. And I still cannot believe the amount of carnage we saw up at turn 10. That was an insane amount of contact. And I'm sure we will be seeing plenty of that at the end of the race. Let's see if I can get a replay of that up on screen now. So it was Mishk and Ek we saw who had the wreck. Let's have a look. At the moment, Mishk and Ek, yeah, last 381. And here we go. This was the chaos unfolding at the start of the race. This was back there. And, oh, yeah, Ek, there's just so much going on down there. We'll have a closer look at that later on. At the moment, he's in the pits. Meanwhile, Dixon and Rebecci are both starting to come together on the back of Hewlett. This is for P3. And there's a train forming behind her now. Meanwhile, Topinka is running away ahead, 5 seconds ahead of this bunch of drivers now. He's absolutely running away with it. You could see Chad in the background there having another one of his trademark little dummies to the inside. We saw Chad and Priadko have a really good battle last week at Barcelona. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more moves from him later on in the race. At the moment, Chad is only 0.4 seconds off. Let's go on board with Hewlett. And we've got the virtual mirror at the top you can see behind. We are only 8 minutes in, and we've had more than half of the field wreck at turn 10. Meanwhile, the leaders just keep going. They've got no idea what's happened. to Pinker. 5 seconds ahead of Hearn. This is Hewlett, 0.3 seconds off of Hearn. And here's Dixon close to the rear. Oh, and Hearn's gone off. Is this Hewlett's chance coming into turn 7? The couple right-handers, but it doesn't look like there's an advantage there. But he is coming close now. He is millimeters. He's, well, not that close, but he is very close to the driver in P2. Coming into turn 8. And the gaps are starting to grow, but not between Dixon and Hewlett. Dixon is looking at Hewlett. He's looking to make a move soon. He's right on his bumper. This is Hewlett having to defend P3. Hewlett himself is only about 7/10 off of Hearn ahead. But still no action from the leaders here. And this is the point of interest at the moment. Hewlett going slightly wide through turn 3. Collecting a bit of grass there. Turn 4. And is this potentially a move into turn 5? The Clane chicane, he's still too far behind. But we saw earlier Dixon coming in close. Oh, and Hewlett's all out of shape. Dixon going around the outside for the inside line into turn 7. He's round the outside and into turn 7. And that's Dixon. He's by through the chicane. But Hewlett's still not happy. Hewlett is not willing to give up that position so easily. He's directly behind him. But Dixon up into P3. The final podium position. Coming into turn 8. Is Hewlett close enough for a move? No, he isn't. And Dixon manages to hold on to P3. But that's not all the action. Hewlett is looking for his position back into turn 10. And he is virtually alongside. Round the outside. No, not close enough. Meanwhile, all of this fighting allows Rebecci in closer. It looks like Chard managed to get past Priadko while all of this was happening. This is on the pit straight. Here's Hewlett having a look to the inside, but he's still not close enough. And looks like Dixon has managed to secure P3. Incredible racing up at the front. A tragic crash at the back. We still have no idea what happened there. We'll get into that a little later. Meanwhile, Morris is having a go at Priadko now. P7 and P8. These are the lower couple pro drivers. And Morris seems very impatient. Collecting a bit of gravel coming through turn 4. Up into the Clane chicane, turn 5. We've seen drivers under pressure buckle through this chicane, taking on way too much curb there. And they just hit the sausage and that's their race. Pretty much not ruined, but they lose their position fairly easily from that. Coming through the left-hander over the hill. And this is Morris. Oh, and that's Priadko off track and Morris takes advantage. Morris up into P8. Priadko getting all out of shape. Misses the track through turn 7. Goes off track and that's Morris. Upper position. Meanwhile, further back, we're having a huge battle now for P16 between Wraith, Brum and Woodkit. Wraith in the Ferrari, Brum in the Porsche, Woodkit in the Aston Martin. And then just behind us, Divitini in the McLaren, looking to make a move as well. With now 47 minutes left remaining in the race. It looks like Brum is under attack from Woodkit soon. Coming through turn 10 now. Jackie Ixbocht out onto the pit straight. And this looked like a particularly big battle. Coming into turn 1 now, the left-hander, and Woodkit is having a look at Brum. He seems like he looks like, what do you call it, a predator. Looks like a predator looking at his next prey. This is Woodkit. He is a pro driver, so as well he should. On the AM driver, Brum. Meanwhile, The standings for the AM drivers at the moment, Jackson leading, Pfeiffer second and Ty third. So still fairly similar standings for the top 3 drivers. And is that Brum out of shape coming out of turn 5 through the left hand over the hill. Woodkett has a little more speed, but they hit the chicane and he's still not close enough. But he is now. He's right on Brum's bumper. We could potentially see a move into turn 1. That was Brum going slightly wide. He's clipped the gravel. Clipped the grass. Oh, and Woodkett is looking very racy behind Brum at the moment. Only 0.3 seconds behind the man in the Aston Martin. He's had a rough season, but he is looking to make some moves on the man ahead, Brum. Oh, and Brum's had a rough turn there through turn 10. And is this Woodcott's opportunity into turn 1? Looks like Divitini in the background wants to get involved as well. This is still just the battle for P17 overall. And these 4 drivers are all battling now. Divitini and Fox have both caught up to these 2. So this is a 4-way battle now for P17 overall. Wraith has just left these drivers behind. The Pro-Am driver, he's currently P4 for his class, so he is pursuing a podium. His second podium of the season, actually. And Brum is also having to go on the defensive now from the Aston Martin. And these drivers are very close, heading through turn 7. Turleman Bocht. All 4 of these drivers, Brum, Woodkett, Divitini, Fox, the Porsche, Aston Martin, McLaren and McLaren. Oh, and he's got that inside line through turn 8. And he is looking very racy. Is this his opportunity into the final chicane, turn 10? He's staying on the outside, Brum covering that outside line. And is that a late lunge? Oh, it looked like a late lunge from Woodkett in the Aston Martin. Coming out onto the main straight now. And these 4 drivers all taking advantage of the slipstream as much as they can. And I'm wagering on a move fairly soon. Brum is under immense pressure. Divitini wants to get involved in the conflict ahead, but he has also got Fox to worry about behind. And is this Woodcott's chance? He's only 0.1 seconds. Here we go. Into turn 4. And Brum covers him off. Whoa, Brum is under pressure. He is making mistakes. Woodkett is looking to advance up the field. And it is all clean. But here's a run from Divitini now. Divitini coming through the left-hander. He's got speed, but he's not close enough. And now Woodkett has to go defensive, and he's right on the bumper of Brum. Brum's had something happen through that corner. And Divitini's slow now. Fox is potentially looking at an overtake into turn 8. There's all sorts of action. Brum taking a very defensive line. Woodkett taking none of it. He wants his nose down the inside. This is spectacular racing coming through the final section of the racetrack now. We're only 15 minutes into the race. And that is Brum peeling into the pits. He would rather take his mandatory pit stop now than fight these guys, which is a smart play, I'm not going to lie. You lose less time going into the pits rather than fight with these other drivers. But that was spectacular fighting from these drivers. Meanwhile, Divitini is under threat from Fox now, but he is still within biting range, if you will, attack range of Woodkett. And both Divitini and Fox are Pro-Am drivers, so they are fighting for position. Coming into turn 5 now, the Clane chicane. And that gap has opened. But oh my goodness, we saw some good racing there. Meanwhile, up at the front, It's still Hewlett, Dixon and Rebecci. P3, P4 and P5. Looks like Hearn is also starting to gap Hewlett now. 3 seconds ahead. Meanwhile, Topinka is again just running away with it. His pace, 6 seconds ahead. Oh, and that's Dixon going wide. He's pushing. He wants to get past Hewlett as quick as he can. Last laps of Hewlett and Dixon, 128.5, 129.9. So it looks like Dixon had a rough lap coming through the left-hander. Rebecci is also looking at maybe gaining a position if things go all right through here. But these three drivers are not prone to making mistakes. Oh, but there is one from Hewlett coming through the right-hander. Bit of oversteer. His exit's compromised. This is Dixon's chance into turn 8. The hairpin. He's down the inside and he's given him definitely enough space. Oh, and that's Rebecci down the inside. And he tried taking advantage of Hewlett being out of shape. And that's Hewlett back around the outside. Dixon up into P3. Hewlett down to P4. And Rebecci trying to make a position. But he just chose the wrong moment. Let's have a look at that again. This is that contact we saw earlier, coming into the hairpin. And yeah, he just a very late dive, way too late. And Hewlett just wasn't expecting that dive from the Italian. As a result, there is going to be some damage to the right rear of Hewlett. Not sure how much. Let's see if we can have a look at his car. Let's have a look at his car, see if we can detect any damage to it. But a dangerous move from Rebecci then down the inside into turn 8. Trying to be too opportunistic. And as a result, Hewlett has had to pay the price in terms of pace. However, he is not too far off Dixon now. Only 0.7 seconds off. So that has not affected his run. And this is Craig Hewlett looking to make up P3. Meanwhile, back down in P12, there's Massaro and Rodriguez. Massaro, the pro driver. And is that just me? Yes, there is damage to the front of Massaro's car. So it is possible he was involved during that early race altercation, the massive, huge crash we saw at the start of the pit lane. Start of the pit straight, sorry. And Massaro is looking racy behind Rodriguez. Rodriguez currently P3 in his class, looking for another podium. We've had action up and down the grid so far. An entertaining action, if I say so myself. And this looks to be a developing battle. However, up at the top, the drivers are still running at similar pace. And this is the move from Massaro into the chicane, and that was way too late. Oh, and that is Massaro taking out Rodriguez. Oh my goodness. Oh, and there's almost a collision from behind. Over the hill, that was a blind crest. Massaro almost collects one of the Ferraris. And that's Wraith trying to make a move now. Oh, sorry, Bubbins. Correction. And let's have a look at that contact again. Car 87. This was coming into turn 5. And yeah, just completely outbrakes and had to take that inside line. And as we saw, he almost collected one of the Omega Motorsport Italia Ferraris coming by. Fortunately, a last-minute save there, but this is Massaro on Pfeiffer now. Pfeiffer, an AM driver. But he is defending his position. 3 Ferraris in shot now. And that's Pfeiffer going wide. And that allows Wraith through. Up into P16 now. And there's all sorts of things happening all over the place. Massaro being a little too aggressive. Not aggressive enough on the brakes, unfortunately. And this is Massaro now down in P14. And that was what Ferrari almost collected him. It looks like one of the back markers, potentially Urso, almost collected the back of this driver. Oh my goodness. Chad seems... Oh, he's just coming to the pits. Hearts up there for a second. Meanwhile, close gaps. We've got Mallet, Nagy and Pelk. These drivers are having to make way for the race leader to come through now. This is Nagy, only 0.3 seconds off of Mallet. 0.9 seconds. Oh, and Nagy needs to watch out for the race leader coming through. Blue flags do apply. And that has allowed Pelk to come up behind the race leader. The race leader is currently being caught up in some traffic. And Nagy needs to watch out for rule infringements here. And does he see him? Yes, he does. But that allows Pelk up. And Pelk takes advantage. He's down the inside. And Pelk up into P21. Nagy unfortunately had to let the race leader through and did it at just the wrong moment. And that is Nagy down to P22. However, further up the field, this is Pfeiffer, Massaro and Woodcote. Pfeiffer in the green Ferrari having a look at Massaro. Woodcote just behind. Massaro and Woodcote are both pro drivers, so they are fighting for position, but Pfeiffer has no quarrel with them. He, in fact, is P3 in the AM order, and drivers have yet to pit, so it might be worth for Pfeiffer to actually pit now, get the undercut. We are 34 minutes remaining of this race, 25 minutes in. So this is going to be interesting if Pfeiffer chooses to interfere. No, and there's Massaro going straight on into the pit lane. He's getting an early pit. We saw some of the pro drivers from earlier pit. This is Woodcote now on Pfeiffer. Woodcote is looking to get past Pfeiffer. And this is crucial now, because Massaro went into the pits. If Woodcote can't get a quick lap in, then Massaro is going to come back out ahead. Because, of course, now Woodcote's stuck behind Pfeiffer, who is an AM driver. And is this the look? No. It was a look, apologies, but it just wasn't a move. And Pfeiffer, as far as he knows, he's just racing another driver. So Pfeiffer then, currently P3 in the AM class. Jackson leading, then Ty, then Pfeiffer. But I think we've just seen a drive-through penalty for one of our race leaders. And that is Daniel Hearn with a drive-through penalty up at the top, same as Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer's also gotten a drive-through penalty. Things are going wrong for the race leaders. Not the race leaders, but our podium finishes. Hearn was P2. He's got a drive-through. This is Pfeiffer now, P3 in his class, and he's also got a drive-through. Pfeiffer abusing track limits apparently, and Hearn, I can imagine, having a drive-through either for track limits or just pits. Woo! And that was a hot and speedy Pfeiffer coming in behind Woodcote. That is the tricky thing about coming into the pits from that position. This is meanwhile Hewlett on Pelk. Of course, we saw Hewlett battling with Dixon and Hearn earlier, so he's looking to get past traffic very quickly. Well, this is Pelk on Mellet as well, 0.3, 0.1. And is that a move from Pelk? Not yet, but here's Craig Hewlett. And that is Mallet, peeling off into the pits. And looks like one of our new drivers, Worth, down in P30, has also gotten a stop and go penalty. And as the cars come into the pits now, there's the standings shuffle a bit. Things are going to start spicing up with the drive-throughs, with the stop and goes. As we see Hearn and Jackson both had drive-through penalties. And we are currently following Pelk. And looks like we've had some contact between drivers cars 15 and 85, who would be Pelk and Mallet. So these two have been fighting a bit. Let's have a look at that real quick. Oh, and the camera's just at an awkward angle there. So unfortunately we couldn't see what happened. But this is Mallet pulling out of the pits now. Got contact between cars 94 and 77. That looks like Nagy and another driver. Priatko. Is that Nagy and... No, that's not Nagy and Priatko. Let's see. Nagy, sorry. This is car 77. Nagy. Let's have a look at what happened earlier. Coming through the left-hander. Ooh, yeah, that was with Dixon. Just coming through there, and he just wasn't aware of the driver behind, and unfortunately got taken out. Nagy now also into the pits. He's currently P18. Pretty good result for the driver so far. Also one of our new drivers, one of the new additions to the championship, and now things start to stabilise with our pit stops. At the moment, Diringer up in P2. Sorry, P5. No, apologies, this is P2. The software just takes a while to get used to it. Meanwhile, Topinka and Rebecci come out. Hang on. Is that a P2 for Rebecci? I'm not sure whether Rebecci has just come out of the pits. So yes, this does look like Rebecci has made up a couple positions. Rebecci is coming out just ahead of Chard Priatko now. And that is Rebecci up into P2 overall for his class. Dixon. Where's Dixon gone? Dixon has disappeared as well. Craig Hewlett is still there. Brum, Urso Massaro. Nagy, Mellet. Hearn, of course, has the drive-through. And please tell me that is not another disconnection from the British driver Dixon in the Aston Martin. I think it is. As unbelievable as it seems, for the second week running, Dixon has disconnected from the race. Dixon, our potential fighter for the top position, has left the lobby. It's now Rebecci up into P2. I cannot believe it, but this means that Chard is up into P3 for Pro Class. Could this be his first podium of the season? He has been working hard for it, so it is definitely a well-earned podium from the driver. As we see the majority of drivers coming to the pits now. Dutton heading into the pits, Pfeiffer as well. We haven't seen any other penalties so far. I'm looking at a gap down in P18. This is Zanussi, Fox, Massaro and Urso. Zanussi in the Aston Martin. And he's gone wide through there. And that is Zanussi losing out to lots of drivers coming through turn 7. Zanuski's lost out huge there. Meanwhile, Massaro's having a look at Fox down into turn 8. He's got his nose just in there. Clean racing from these two. Good overtake by Massaro, but it's not done yet. Fox is still holding on. And looks like Fox is indicating he's going into the pits. No. Sorry, that was just Fox indicating he's going over to the right. And this is Massaro looking to make a position on Fox overall. But this is a fight between a Pro-Am and an Am driver. So there's no need for Fox to be defending. He's currently P4 in the class. P17 overall. And is that still... Oh, and there's contact! Massaro and Fox coming together twice during that whole interaction. That's Urso down the inside of Fox now. Meanwhile, Zanuski's also looking to make a position. Oh, and there's contact between those two as well. There's all sorts of things happening midfield down in P17. Urso makes a couple positions. Massaro battling Fox has a couple altercations with him. And then Zanussi comes along. Same issue. So Fox then dropping 3 positions. That was very unfortunate for Fox. He's just taken a number of hits now. Let's have a look at some of that contact. Car 80, Fox. This is going to be with Zanussi, I believe. Coming into turn 5. Yes, here we go. Coming through there. And, oh, he just squeezes him and, yeah, that was it. There's no reason for that, really. And then this is going to be with Urso now, the contact between Fox and Urso. A bit earlier on. Coming through turn 3. Oh, and yeah, he just clips him there. And then collects Urso on the way through. Fox losing out big time in that whole interaction. I'm seeing a Morris drop down. The camera's gone all weird. He's coming out of the pits now. Apologies. P4. Just ahead of Craig Hewlett. Hewlett just creeps by down the inside as Morris comes out the pits. This then is Topinka, Rebecci, Chard, then Hewlett. And that's Morris trying to get heat into his tyres. Oh, and that's a sideways mallet, and that is Hewlett off as well. What has happened there? All sorts of drama happening down at turn 5. Hewlett's gone into the pits. And meanwhile, Mallet is still continuing. Let's see what happened there. 85 and 4. This is the incident we just looked at coming into turn 5, the chicane. It was blue flag conditions. Oh, and Hewlett just runs into the backside of Mallet, sorry. And yeah, just takes him out. Mallet then struggling to see the McLaren behind. Meanwhile, this is between Jackson, Woodcote, and... Sorry, this is Wraith, Jackson, and Woodcote. Jackson in the green Ferrari. Woodcote in the Aston Martin. And there's Nagy just getting out the way. So at the moment, these are 3 different classes of drivers. There's Jackson being very sensible and letting Woodcote by. You know, up ahead is Wraith. And so our top 3 has been majorly shaken up in almost all 3 classes. For Pro Class, Topinka out ahead, Rebecci P2, Chard P3. Chard looking at his first podium of the season. Rebecci for his highest finish of the season. And then down in the Pro-Am class, we've got Deeringer, P5 overall. Deeringer, then Dutton, then Wraith. Deeringer looking at his second podium of the season. And Dutton, his first race of the season, also looking at a podium. And that is very interesting indeed. And then in the AM class, we've got Jackson in the lead, Ty P2, Brum P3. Those three, as per usual, right at the front. Jackson looking at his second win of the season, Ty his second podium, and Brum also another podium added. So the battle for the class lead in AM is going crazy right now. Zlutnik down in P22, he's P5 in his class overall. So he might potentially lose his position up at the top of his class. Interesting title battles then. This is Woodkit just behind on Rave. For Pro-Am class, Deeringer, Dutton, Rave. So this is P3 for the Pro-Am class, and there are yellow flags out. Not sure for what. Potentially a slow car, but considering that Hewlett is in the pits, or was in the pits, it means that Hewlett has lost his streak of podiums. And everything is happening this race. Topinka still ahead, but Hearn drive-through, Dixon disconnects, Hewlett collects Mallet, and he gets put out. Here's Rave and Woodkit getting all out of shape, coming through turn 5. That's Jackson trying to preserve his momentum. And these three drivers are all in different classes. Jackson is AM class, Woodkit is Pro, and Rave is Pro-Am. The driver under the most threat, yet still 6 seconds, is Jackson. He's not really much of a predicament. However, for position, this is Fox and Zaniewski. We saw them have their little battle earlier, and it was not pretty. Fox losing out to Urso, Massaro, and Zaniewski. All of them deciding to give Fox a little tap on the way through. Here they come through section 7, the couple right-handers comprising turn 7, through the left-hand kink into Boulder Bergbocht. Turn 8, the hairpin section. It's not really a hairpin, to be honest. You can take that at a surprisingly high speed. Prioritizing entry speed through there is actually going to gain you time, especially if you can hook your tyre on the inside of the curb. You can gain a lot of time through there. Coming onto the pit straight now. This is Fox and Zaniewski having a battle for P5 in the class, P17 overall. The McLaren and the Aston Martin. Currently the point of interest that is actually relevant to the championship standings. Yes, both Hewlett and Hearn are in the pits. So our prior race leaders, both in the pits, and this is Zaniewski going slightly wide onto the gravel. Here's Fox's chance into turn 5. He takes it into the chicane, and it is a clean pass from Fox. You'd expect some sort of squeeze from him as reprimand for the earlier couple taps, but Fox by up into P17 and P5 for his class overall. And we've just had some contact listed between car 6 and 422. This is Rave and Woodkit. And this was that incident we saw earlier at the chicane. Let's have a look at that real quick. Coincidentally, the same section into the braking zone, and yeah, just the miscommunication there. Wraith trying to defend his position. And here's Woodkit again, same section, round the outside now through the left-hander. Into the other chicane, but he's too far back. He lost it coming through the kink over the hill. Woodkit is struggling to make progress on Wraith. Maris is about 4 seconds behind, so he's not really under too much pressure. But if it comes to another incident with Wraith, there is going to be an issue, and Woodkit will be losing out. I believe that is Maris in the Aston Martin we could see in the background there, so his plight might actually be a bit more serious. This is Woodkit trying to get past Wraith. He is desperate at this point. We saw the contact just a second ago coming across the pit straight now, and Wraith is defending his position. The Pro-Am driver defending from the Pro driver, but Wraith has nothing to lose here. He's currently P3, but the next driver is only the next driver is actually a couple laps away. So he has still got... Oh, sorry, that is just over 14, 15, 16, 17 seconds or so. So Wraith does have the capacity to defend from the Aston Martin behind. But as we saw with the contact earlier, it just was not clean at all. And this is still Wraith on Woodkit. Meanwhile, Maris just behind. He's looking to make ground on Woodkit ahead in his class. Maris coming up on Jackson now. Through the couple right-handers that make up turn 7. He's only 0.2 seconds. Will he have a look into the popular turn 8? He has a look, but he's too far behind. And that's Pinker, the race leader, coming up on these two drivers now. That's a very aggressive throttle technique from Maris. He's really wanting to make a position on Jackson soon. Jackson, the current AM leader. And just behind him is Ty in the background. You can see that red, black and white Aston Martin. Jackson is within eyesight of Ty, P2 in AM class at the moment, in the race. So if Jackson defends too much, this could be Ty's chance to have a fight up at the front of the field for the top step of the podium in the AM class. And there's Maris letting Topinka through now. Jackson still has a while, but that gap between Ty and Jackson seems to be closing. So before the end of the race, we could see a fight for the lead. Meanwhile, this is still Woodkit on Wraith. These two have been bickering over P8 for a while now. As Maris gets stuck behind Jackson, Woodkit is stuck behind Wraith. These two are fairly low in the Pro class, so there is not really much point of fighting through here, except for Wraith. He's pretty much the only driver who can afford to have a battle with someone at the moment. Coming into turn 1, but you can see those drivers behind are very close together. Maris and Ty separated by only a couple seconds. And here's Woodkit. He's looking to make a move on Wraith sometime soon. Is it going to be another turn 5 move? Potentially another altercation. Maybe. Let's see. He is gaining 0.2, 0.1. And is this the move? He's still a little too far back. Meanwhile, this is Maris. This is going to be a fight for the lead of the AM class now. This is Jackson and Ty. And Maris sandwiched between them. the two Aston Martins and the Ferrari. And this is going to be crucial for Ty, because Jackson has to be very careful throughout the next couple sections as he lets Maris through, if he lets him through. And should he let him through, will we see another incident like we saw with Rebecci and Hewlett, where Hewlett let Dixon by, and then Rebecci just storms down the inside? Will we see another move like that from Ty? I don't believe we will, but that is a potential. So Maris then is sandwiched between these two for their battle over class lead here at Zolder. And we have 11 minutes remaining in the race, and it has been action-packed all race long, up and down the grid. And at the moment, the gap between Jackson and Ty increases. Meanwhile, in the Pro-Am class, is the battle for the lead of the Pro-Am class. Dutton, his first race ever. Dieringer, his second race here at HSR. Last race, Dieringer was P2. He got his first podium at Barcelona. And this is Dutton now, looking to be the rookie with a race win. And he is only 0.2 seconds behind Dieringer in that Reitiger black car with the Italian colours. And that's Dieringer out of shape coming into turn 3. Through turn 2 into turn 3. And Dutton is a little further back. He's 0.6 seconds behind. This is down in P7, but for Pro-Am class lead. With 10 minutes remaining, Dutton and Dieringer having a battle, potentially in the future, for the lead. Meanwhile, Wraith in P8, P3 in Pro-Am, is 28 seconds behind and still fighting with Woodcote. Looks like Woodcote got by just as I say so. Maris and Ty are still there, but here's the look from Dutton down the inside into turn 8. Is he making a move for the lead? He's taking a very narrow line. He's got the curb. Oh, and it's a slow exit for Dutton. And Dieringer holds on to the position. Just about, but they're still going to be closely matched coming into turn 10. And that was a move from Dutton for the race lead. Unfortunately, his exit was just not good enough to take advantage of that inside line. And he's currently only 0.3 seconds coming into turn 1. These two are fighting for the lead of the Pro-Am category. Coming through turn 2. And Dieringer is taking a narrow line. He's taking the inside line. Oh, and that's Dutton out of shape. A little bit of oversteer there. He's taking a very narrow line. Coming through turn 4. Oh, and that's Dutton with lots of speed. Going around the outside. Coming into turn 5. Will he get by before they hit the turn? Doesn't look like it. That Reitiger's got some acceleration. And they seem all wobbly into the braking zone. And that is still Dutton. Oh! And that is almost a collision with Nagy, who's across the track at turn 6 through Butte. Dutton almost being taken out of contention. But he's still 0.4 seconds just off of Dieringer in that black Reitiger, just ahead. And Dieringer is getting defensive now. You can feel the pressure from that menacing grey BMW behind. Just ahead we can see the Aston Martin of Zaniewski down in P20. Zaniewski's not really chasing anyone at the moment. But this is the battle for the lead of the Pro-Am class. Dieringer and Dutton. Close fight. We've seen a move from Dutton down into turn 8. But unfortunately his line was very narrow, and as a result his exit was not optimal. that low hum of the BMW, the high scream of the the Rater. Oh, and that's again turn 4. He's got a better exit through there almost every lap now. But by the time we hit turn 5, he's still not ahead. He gets all shaky. The rear seems to slip through there. Now into the second section of the track. Through turn 6, the left-hander Butte. Into the section of right-handers. And that is a slow-moving Omega Motorsport Italia car in the background there. And who is that off the track? Looks like Priatko's into the pits as well. But here's the move from Dutton round the outside. Is it into turn 8? Does he hold on? Yes, he does. Dutton into the race lead for Pro-Am. Incredible move round the outside on the exit. And that's Dieringer down to P2. The rookie up into the race lead for his class with 5 minutes left in the race. It's been a long time coming, and he got the job done. And the driver who did take some damage is Di Vittini. He was laying across the track, and he has been disqualified. I do believe that is due to the crash we saw earlier, 471. There's no contact listed, so he must have just had a huge moment earlier on. Meanwhile, down in P20 and P21, this is Zlatnik and Pfeiffer. These two are championship rivals. Zlatnik in P1 overall. But here's the move from Pfeiffer down the outside. Round the outside into turn 5. Does he get the move done? He's not passed by the time they hit the chicane. And this is now fighting for P5 of the AM class in the race. There's Woodkit coming down the inside. So Pfeiffer and Zlatnik then are having a battle for who finishes higher and ultimately who then scores a couple more points. But meanwhile, Jackson... Where is Jackson? P2 currently. P13 overall, P2. So Jackson is potentially going to take the lead of the championship. Oh, and that's a sideways mellet across the track. Here's Pfeiffer's opportunity round the outside of Zlatnik coming into turn 10. Oh, and I think... No, he's still not close enough. He's keeping off that sausage, those couple red bars. And this is Zlatnik and Pfeiffer, 0.8 seconds, 0.9 seconds. And this is pretty much the only battle of note at the moment. And we have loads of drivers into the pits. We've got Bubbins, Nagy, Hewlett, Hearn, and Di Vittini. Those couple drivers with drive-throughs, and they're just sitting in the pits due to repairs. All sorts of things happening. Meanwhile, Jackson up in P13. He's right on Urso's tail, but he's giving it away because it is in a different class. Meanwhile, the gap between Pfeiffer and Zlatnik has increased to about 2 seconds now. So that fight is now almost irrelevant. 3 minutes remaining in the race. And we have seen tons and tons of action here today. Our current race leaders. Topinka, P1 overall and for the Pro class. Rebecci, P2. Chard, P3 in his first podium of the season. Great performance from the McLaren driver, who likes his cars pure black. Then it's Dutton, first race out here with HSR, and he has taken the lead away from Dieringer, who was leading the Pro-Am class for the majority of the race. And Dutton in his first race, potentially with a race win. 2 minutes remaining, not long before the end. And then there's Ty, Adam Ty, with a surprise podium. He used to be up here throughout the first 2 rounds. Missed out on Barcelona, but he's back again, up on top form. You can see Pfeiffer just in the background there. And this is the closest gap. Ty to Maris, P10 to P9. 2 Aston Martins. And you can see Zlatnik and Pfeiffer, those 2 Ferraris that are battling over championship points now. This isn't just battles for position. This is now battle for the championship position. Oh, and that's a slow-moving Zlatnik. Oh, and that's Maris off as well. This brings Zlatnik and Pfeiffer back into a battle with each other now. 1.4 seconds, and it's the final lap. It's come just like that. The final lap is here, with Topinka coming through the first section. And we have seen all sorts of stuff happen today. We've seen some great overtaking. We've seen some horrible overtaking. We've seen some absolutely huge crashes, potentially the biggest. This is now potentially that contact we saw just a second ago between Maris. Yes, this was between Maris and Zlatnik, I believe. Coming into turn 8. And yeah, just... there's a little tap there on the way through. Meanwhile, car 10, this was with Pfeiffer and Maris as well. And there are no battles for anything significant at the moment as Topinka comes through the final section. Left kink into turn 8. He's only got 3 more corners to go before the end of his race. His 4th win of the season. Down the final straight into the final chicane. Topinka leading from pole all race long. He's been at the front from start to finish. It's once again Topinka, the winner at Zolder. The McLaren crosses the line. And now for our Pro-Am drivers coming through the final section as well. This is Dutton coming through turn 5. Dutton's had a brilliant race as well. Good qualifying pace. And he's managed to convert that into great racing pace as well. This is looking to be a great first race win. We saw an absolutely awesome battle between him and Diringer earlier. Clean battle as well. Couple exchanges between the two for first and second podium of the seasons respectively. Meanwhile, Ty crosses the line in the AM class for his first race win. And here's Dutton now, Pro-Am class leader for Zolder. Coming across the line, and it's Dutton. P1 for the Pro-Am class. Diringer P2. Wraith P3. An absolutely incredible race all around. And the donuts commence. And this man has earned it. First race out here with HSR. And he has won his class. P5 overall. A brilliant performance from the man in the BMW. In the meantime, Ty, that Aston Martin, he's also been consistently performing at the top, taking another podium yet again. And it has been an absolutely brilliant race so far. And that concludes our race here at Zolder. P1 for Topinka, Ty and Dutton, Pro-Am and Pro-Am respectively. And our other podium finishers are Abechi, Chard, Brum, Jackson, Deeringer and Wraith. In no particular order. As we reach the end of our 1 hour of action here at Zolder for round 4 of the championship. And we are going to be looking at some of the autosave highlights in just a moment. But for a quick race recap, Topinka wins yet another race. 4th of the season. 4 races, 4 race wins for Topinka. Rebecci takes his 3rd podium of the season. Highest finish. Chard takes his 1st podium of the season in the pro category. P3 for Chard then in the black McLaren number 777. Then in the AM class, Ty, Brum and Jackson. These 3 have all seen podiums throughout the season, so it is no strange sight for them. And then in the Pro-Am class, we've seen some great performance from Dutton, Deeringer and Wraith. All 3 podium finishes now. Dutton, his first race win of the season. If he keeps this up, he might be challenging for the lower spot on the podium. Maybe not the top spot, which is currently taken by Felix Eck, but considering that Eck had his big wreck, this could put him out of contention. Actually, I just realised that the 2 top drivers in the Pro-Am Championship both had a wreck. It was Felix Eck and Martin Mischk, who both DNF'd today, and they are our championship leaders. So Wraith then will probably take the championship lead. And I'm sure we will be able to have a look at what happened on the start of the pit straight between those drivers. There was absolute carnage down at the start of the race, and I still have no idea what happened there. And we will now be looking at the autosave highlights that ACC has automatically compiled from the race. So this will kind of be a review of the race as we head into it now. And this is Pelk now. If we bring up the HUD, apologies. And this was the chaos right at the back. You don't generally see this when you're focusing on the race leaders through turn 1. We saw a couple drivers, or 1 or 2 drivers, completely sideways. You can see the chaos unfolding just ahead, but all happening just too quickly. I believe it was Urso being involved there, and Bobbins bringing up the rear in the Ferrari. And this was Pelk that we are currently following in the BMW colours. Coming up to turn 5 now, and it was a fairly clean race. Oh, and that's Maris off into the gravel. You can see Nagy defending from a blue Ferrari. This was an overtake on lap 2 by Massaro on Mischk, but it seems as though that has happened bit earlier, unless this was Mishk taking advantage. Oh, and that's what happened. That's what happened. Massaro came out of shape. Mishk absolutely smashed into his rear, and Felix came absolutely hammering into both of them. So that's what happened on lap 2. Light is finally shone on the situation. This is Massaro now and Hosco. 2 Ferraris, blue and the red. Oh, and Massaro just braking way too late and tapping Hosco into the wall. And the drivers taking advantage of the damage to Massaro's car. A slow moving Ferrari in the early stages of the race. Here's Zaniewski and Mark Nagy. On the pit straight. Coming through turn 1, the left-hander. And that was a wide Nagy. And Zaniewski up a position into P21. Oh, and you can see a Ferrari in the background there. Was that worth going wide on Mellet? Looked like it. A Ferrari going into the gravel. Lap 6 now. Mellet and Mark Nagy. This was Mellet on Nagy. Oh, and that was just all out of shape. Coming over the bumps there. And Mellet takes advantage through the left-hander. Butte turn 6 and up a position. But that was Nagy trying to hold on through the first section of turn 7. But then he also loses out to Worth. So Nagy then drops 2 positions in lap 6. This is now lap 7. Mark Jackson and Joshua Rodriguez, the Porsche on the Ferrari, round the outside. And he's taken a very narrow line into turn 7. It's a good move from Rodriguez. But he holds up Jackson on the exit. And as a result, barely stays ahead. Great overtake from Rodriguez on the green Ferrari. This is Nagy and Bubbins now. Into turn 8 by the looks of it. Bubbins from miles back. The huge lunge, yet safely executed. Bubbins up into P22. That was a huge lunge. He came from miles back and just snatched it away. Here's Pfeiffer and Massaro. Again, Massaro. Is it clean this time? Coming through the couple right-handers. He's on the inside. Into turn 3. And he stays alongside. Pulls ahead before turn 4. Clean overtake from Massaro. On Pfeiffer. P13. Lap 11, David Zaniewski and Jordan Bubbins. We saw these two have a go at each other last race. Zaniewski all out of shape over the curbs, the sausage curbs. Tries to defend his position, but is just too slow coming into turn 7. Bubbins up into P21. Jan Pelk and Ruben Worth, Ferrari and the BMW driver, coming into turn 5 now. Oh, and that BMW was all out of shape over the curb. We've seen so many drivers this race just lose it over the right-hander. Take just a little bit too much curb. The car jumps, loss of traction, and that was Worth going straight on over the chicane at turn 7. This is meanwhile now Zaniewski and Fox. And I suspect this was a stationary Fox. And all sorts of weird stuff happening. Unless it has not happened yet. That was interesting. Meanwhile, this is now Mallet and Mark Nagy coming through the left-hander. The red Porsche. Oh, and yeah, that was Nagy going straight over the chicane. We saw that a bit earlier during the actual race. Nagy seems to have had a rough couple of laps, but he's held on, actually. Not too badly. This is now Morris and Diringer. I think we saw this battle during the actual race. Morris coming through the pit straight now. Think this is potentially Diringer coming out of the pit lane. Unless it was just... Yeah, it was probably just in the pit lane. This is meanwhile Massaro and Zaniewski. This was that incident we saw earlier between Massaro, Zaniewski and Fox. These guys were having a contact fest. And Zaniewski just completely running off the track to let Massaro through. Of course, we've seen the kind of damage that Massaro did through the first section of the racetrack, through the couple right-handers. This is Ostrichardt and Pfeiffer now. The BMW on the Ferrari. Round the outside. Oh, that's a little bit of contact into turn 7. Oh, and a little bit of contact through there as well. Just a little tap. You can see the frustration from Pfeiffer. The little headlight flash there. This is now Daniel Morris on Craig Hewlett. And we saw that from the front, actually, a bit earlier on during the actual race. Morris heating his tyres. And that was when Hewlett hit Mallet and just DNF'd right there. That was the moment when Hewlett's race got turned upside down and he lost his race streak. This is now Nick Brum and Angelo Massaro. Yet again, Massaro making moves during the race. Coming down the inside into turn 5. And a clean overtake from Massaro. Good clean racing there from the blue Ferrari on the white Porsche. This is now Jim Fox and David, sorry. These two were having their battle early on. We saw the contact fest. We were all there attending. And that was the move we saw by Jim Fox. Beautiful move on Zaniewski early on in the race. This is Brum and Urso for P15. That was a wide Brum, keeps it together and tries to defend from an Urso. But the Ferrari has none of it, keeps it down the inside and goes up into P15. And they're still side by side, actually. And Brum takes back his position. And that cuts off just there. This is Massaro now on Rodriguez. The Porsche and the Ferrari. And Massaro putting lots of pressure on the Porsche, and Joshua just says, I don't want any part of this. Just let him through. Plays it safe. And Massaro up into B13. This was now between Brum and Urso for P15 as well. And Brum staying the inside line, trying to defend from Urso. You can see Chard in the background there. Oh, Chard had a tap on the brakes as Ursa was going through because he thought there was going to be some sort of issue, some contact there in front of the podium finisher. And here's Nigel Woodcote on Wraith. This is the move that we'd been waiting for so long. We saw the little bit of contact between these two. Oh, and that was Wraith forced wide by Woodcote, and Woodcote takes advantage. This is now Dutton on Deeringer, that move for the race lead. We watched live coming through turns 7, and he had a better run through there. Took the early outside line into the hairpin. Deeringer, despite all his defending, could do nothing as the BMW swoops up into the race lead for the Pro-Am class. This was Pfeiffer and Daniel Zlatnik in their battle for championship points. These two championship leaders for the AM class. That is Zlatnik defending from Pfeiffer, and Pfeiffer ultimately concedes the position with Woodcote just behind. And a clean overtake from Woodcote down the inside there. This is Jackson and Urso now. Oh, and that looks like a banged up green Ferrari. This was back down in P12. And yes, that Ferrari has seen better days. But it was a clean overtake from Urso. Almost no defending from Jackson. Urso, the pro driver, up into P13. Now here's Adam Ty and Tony Morass. This is down in P10. Adam Ty forcing Zlatnik slightly wide. And Maris going wide as well. And that was Ty's move on the pro driver. And here's the race finish with Mikael Topinka coming across the line to finish the race. His 4th race win of the season. He's been utterly dominant so far, with the race win for the Czech. Well deserved. And that brings an end to our race weekend here at Zolder. It has been an absolutely incredible day. We've seen some fights for podium positions. We've seen some new podium finishes. We've seen a huge crash, probably the biggest of the season. And I'm sure we'll be having a look at that closer, see if we can get some onboards from that. Unfortunately, we did not get round to that today. But we will be back next week for round 5 of the championship. We're at the tail end of season 2. So this is where drivers start to fight over championship points. Potentially instead of race wins, but obviously that is the best way to make points. So, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.